One particular day, a former colleague or former peer, she walked into my office and she said, Carla, can I come in here and sit down for a little while? And I said, sure. She said, can I close the door? I said, sure. So I'm thinking, I don't know what's going on. This is interesting. So she said, you know what? My manager, who was my colleague at the time, she told me that it's been a year since my husband passed away, and I should have gotten over it by now. I was stunned. I didn't know what to say, but she quickly responded by saying, you know what? I just need to sit here for just a second. Is that okay? I need to sit in silence. And I said, sure, no problem. I said, you mind if I just continue to work on my laptop? And she said, yeah. She needed a safe space. So I continued to work on my laptop. And within 10 to 15 minutes, she just stood up and she said, thank you, Carla. And she walked out. What's the point of the story? Well, a couple of points. Allow people to have a safe space when they're grieving. Also, we cannot determine someone's length of grief. It was very improper for that particular manager to tell her to get over the grief of her husband. That wasn't her place. We can never tell someone how long to grieve. So, folks, welcome to Lead Like You Mean It, people. I am so glad today that we have Dr. Arielle Jordan. She is a licensed trauma therapist, author, U.S. Army veteran, like the military, an international speaker. She's the founder of Mindset Quality and the creator of Mission Redefined, where she helps individuals and organizations redefine resilience, restore balance, and lead with authenticity after adversity. Today, we're redefining resilience, not only the kind that we just push through, but the kind that allows leaders to heal, restore balance, and still show up with strength, clarity, and purpose. Dr. Arielle Jordan, welcome to Lead Like You Mean It, people.
Thank you. I enjoyed your story. I think that that's very relatable. I feel like a lot of people think that grief is supposed to go away, but really, we're going to miss that person forever. So we just kind of have to figure out what life looks like without them. And so I always say that we grow around the grief rather than get rid of it. Like it's still going to be there, but it doesn't mean that it has to be like a life sentence where we are just going to struggle forever. That's not the case. We can, grieve and love and, it's a beautiful mess sometimes, but that's how we heal too, rather than like avoiding it. So I'm really happy to hear that you had that safe space for her. Like that's so beautiful.
Yeah. Tell me, I was just thinking, since you're a therapist, what could that leader have said to her employee?
Man, well, not putting a time limit on it for one.
Yeah.
But maybe just like listening. I think curiosity, like sometimes just tell me about them or what do you miss most about them today? Like if you have the space for that, that's very warm and kind. Just, yeah, I can understand that you would miss somebody that you love. That's just a human thing. But also like if you wanted to go further, what are you missing about them today? What makes you think about them in this way today? And that holds space for them. And you don't have to turn into like a therapist or anything, but literally you can just say, well, what's going on today? Like what popped in your mind? Did something happen? Or is today like anniversary dates or something like that? Like just check in. You don't have to become the therapist. You could just literally be a human being and just say like, hey, what's going on with you today? Sorry to hear that, and we just push forward. You gave them space to grieve.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's when a leader actually leads.
Yeah.
Because you sit there and you're concerned about the employee I mean, it's a genuine concern.
Yeah.
And you're not going to come across bossy, but you're going to have a listening ear, because it's just like, it's similar to, not just like, but when a parent has children, with parents, when they have children, that you need to be in a space to be able to listen to what's going on, and
Right.
realizing that when you have multiple children, they're not always the same. So the employees, not everybody is the same. Of course, we're all people, but
Right.
that's powerful, to take the opportunity to just listen.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
just be human. I mean, because a leader is not exempt from their own grief. So it's like, you know what this feels like. You know what pain feels like. You might not know what their pain feels like, but you've probably experienced pain in your life. So what if when you had that pain, somebody just asked how you were doing or checked in on you? Like, it probably would feel nice. And it's a moment of connection rather than disconnection.
Mm.
We don't have to dismiss it. We can say, wow, yeah, I can imagine that's still hard for you, even after all this time. And that's all you have to say. And they feel validated. They feel like, wow, yeah, so this is actually normal to hurt. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I just need a minute and then I can go back to work or whatever, because you honored it rather than dismissed it. You
Mhm.
dismiss it, you will get a whole different set of reactions.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Wow. So true. So true.
Mhm.
Wow. If you don't mind, would you share about your daughter,
Sure. Yeah.
your baby girl?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's what led me to become like more in depth with grief because I've experienced it myself. My daughter was 18 months when she passed away. She had a rare congenital heart disease that even today still doesn't have a cure.
Mm.
And so it made it complex. And, even from the beginning, knowing that she has this rare disease, and there's no cure for it, like I knew at some point that we may lose her, but mentally, I think as a mother, I'm like, no, we're going to defeat the odds, which we still did. They told me she would live to be 3 months, and she was 18 months when she passed.
Oh, wow.
So, but that little girl smiled every day. And so, like, when I'm grieving, it's been 10 years now, a little over 10 years now, and I still have to hold space for my grief, because if I don't, it will take space and it will do it at a time that's not convenient. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
I have to practice what I preach. I can't just talk about it. I have to do it. So I do create space to honor that loss and think about that beautiful smile. And then, we have the holidays coming up. So it's all about family and it's amplified. And there are still moments where I'm like, there's like a sadness, like a wave that comes. And it's just like a wave goes up, a wave goes down too. So you just kind of like ride the wave as that happens, especially with something so significant as child loss. So that's kind of like how I got into this type of work, and then started to like look at trauma. And then I started connecting grief with a lot of things, like somebody who's had a 20-year career and all of a sudden it ends. That's
Mm.
grief. Somebody who is in a marriage and they thought they would be married to that person forever and they are now getting a divorce. That's grief.
Mhm.
A friendship that ends, any of those type of things. We all experience grief at different areas of life. And it's just like, no one teaches us how to deal with it, or like a proper way or a healthier way. I would say we just like push it away, or we'll push through it. And then later on, it'll show up in places that we didn't intend for it to.
Hmm. That's so true. So last year I lost my mom,
Hmm.
and she passed away in August, and she was sick for the entire year. So I didn't realize at that time
Yeah.
that I was grieving. That was something new to me, that I was grieving while she was still alive.
Right.
Um, because of just her body was just, it was dying.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not the mom you used to know.
no,
Yeah. It's different.
yeah,
Hmm.
it very much is. And I think back at times where just myself and others who I've watched who've lost loved ones. That part that you said earlier about giving them space and listening is so important because
Yeah.
we want to take care of people. We want to say the right things, but
Yep.
sometimes we say stupid things. And at least hold them back to let them to be able to talk. Because I remember at one point after my mother died, I just had to talk. I had to talk about everything. I had to just say everything, from cremation. I mean, it was crazy. I was just saying everything. And then after a few weeks, I just stopped. But it was something I had to get it out. But I appreciate my friends and family for allowing that time
Right.
just to get it out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I mean, and there's so many different ways. There's no wrong way to grieve. Everybody
Mhm.
is going to grieve differently. That's just how it works. But I think just being able to show up as you are,
Yeah.
like there's something really beautiful in that. If I fall apart, then I fall apart. If I hold it together and then I hold it together. But it really is just like what works best for that person and just leaving
Mhm.
space to figure that out. Like even now, after 10 plus years, I'm still like, okay, is it going to hit me out of nowhere?
Mhm.
Did I do the right stuff? And I'm still checking and I know the things. I'm a therapist, but
Mhm.
it's still, I'm not exempt from it. Like I still will have it catch me off guard sometimes when I'm like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
yeah, what is this? And I check in though, and I honor that for myself. Sometimes it's like a sick day where I just need to do the basic needs like eating and drinking water and moving my body. And that's all I got for
Mhm.
that day.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to linger for weeks, for years, but I have to honor like today, I don't have it. My best today looks like taking care of these basic needs
Mhm.
and that's a win for me. My best tomorrow might look like doing everything on my to-do list. So it just depends. And we have to honor ourselves where we are and hold space for ourselves. And I
Mhm.
think that's where like when we get into like the leadership stuff, I don't think leaders always do that. I think they're like there for everyone else. And it's like, well, wait a minute, what about you?
Mhm.
Did you check in with yourself? And a lot of times it's like, no, I was so busy. And so people look successful on paper, but they're absolutely cooked on the inside. So I see that a lot.
So very true. Well, I
Mhm.
I, I do want to honor your daughter because I like when you post pictures of her, and you said she had that smile, and I like
Yeah,
when you post the pictures and she has a smile. It's
thank you.
adorable.
I'm like, that was my girl,
Yeah.
man. I swear she would just know when to do it too. Like I know they say like when like they're newborn, they just like this is like a facial muscle or something. But I'm like, I don't know. I think she'd be smiling because she knows when to smile.
Mm.
I don't know, but that brings me joy to think about like all that she went through too, like so
Mhm.
many like medical procedures and just poking and prodding and so much time in the hospital.
Wow.
Um, the hospital that we were in most of the time was Boston Children's Hospital,
Mhm.
and the other hospital was DC Children's. But these hospitals, they do a great job with like making the parent feel like a person. Like
Right.
I could remember times when like she would be in ICU and there's nothing that I could do, like absolutely nothing that I could do but sit
Mhm.
there and like be sad and look at her. And they would be like, hey, so we got these Red Sox tickets and they were donated. Do you want to go to a game? And I would be like, I can't. I need to stay here and look at her. And they're like, no, you don't. Like, you literally can go to this baseball game and come back and we got her and we have your cell phone number. And again, like forgetting yourself
Yeah.
because you're so intertwined with what's happening. But it's also okay to take care of yourself, in that moment. And it was really hard to separate that.
Mm. That's
So
wonderful. That's the
yeah,
side we don't hear about hospitals.
right. Right. We hear all the bad things.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's ups and downs with whatever, but
Yeah.
I remember those like times where I'm like, wow, they really made me leave and go see a baseball game, and
Yeah.
I did not want to. Um, there was like a gym across the street that had a free membership if you were there long term.
Mhm.
They had musical stairs that you walk up. Like
Wow.
the times when we did get to leave the room, I would have to like have a pole and wheel her IVs around. But
Mhm.
we were able to go to the lobby and like look at the fish in the huge fish tank, or walk outside in their little like flower garden, and just she got to experience being outside in those moments.
Wow.
So it really was like the little moments. And obviously with this situation, you're grieving the whole time too, because you just never
Mhm.
know when that moment is going to be. And
Sure.
then there's, the grief and loss that happens when you actually lose them. But then there's the grief of like who I was like before when she was
Mhm.
here. So it's like it's so many different aspects that go into that. And I was serving in the military when that happened.
Oh,
So there's a whole nother section to the
yes.
grief too.
Yes, yes. That's beautiful. So I'll pay extra attention next time when you show her picture like that, because it is adorable. I've seen it. I know at least I, I know at least 2 times. I know that I've
Mhm.
seen it. But it is precious to see her little smiling face on there. So
I thank you for sharing that too, because sometimes I'm like, I don't want to share too much or too little or whatever, but I try to make sure it applies and that there's a message
mhm.
beyond just sharing, something personal about me. It's like some people wonder, like a question I've been asked before, like even in therapy sessions, is like, how does somebody go through so much trauma because they're relating to themselves
Yeah.
and come out on the other end? Have you ever seen it happen? I'm like, yeah, I've done it. Like I'm
Mhm.
a walking example of how you don't have to stay stuck in it. You can still move forward. Grief and joy can exist at the same time. And
Mm.
I think
Wow.
we sleep on that sometimes. Like both can exist, and I will honor both. And I've learned to do that. And I teach
Mm.
other people how to do that.
Mm. Grief and joy can exist at the same time.
Yep.
That's heavy duty. I'm going to have to think on that, Dr. Jordan, after this. I've got to say it again. Grief and
Yep.
joy can exist at the same time.
Yeah. That was a
Mm.
game changer for me. I thought
Wow.
like after this tremendous loss, and then I
Yeah.
lost my dad 3 months later
Oh.
to lung cancer that he got from Agent Orange being in Vietnam.
Mm.
So I have that loss, and then my dad didn't tell me that he was like stage 4 because I
Mhm.
had just lost my daughter.
Mm.
So it seemed very quick to me. And then that same year, I went through a divorce. So there's like 3 different losses
Yeah.
here.
Yes.
And so I'm like, I'm just going to be sad forever. Like, this is who I am now.
Uh-huh.
And that's not true. But I really believe that. I believe that, like, the rest of my life, I had to be sad. And that I can't, like, I felt guilty for, like, having joyful moments and stuff like that because of so much loss. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, both can exist at the same time? Huh. Okay, so you mean I can go on this vacation and have a good time, but also remember that I have this tremendous loss that
Mhm.
still hurts sometimes? Yeah, we can
Mhm.
do it. We can do it all. We can have it all. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember like I mentioned, with my mom passing away last year, I'd already had a scheduled vacation to the Virgin Islands with one of my friends. It was the
Mm.
month after. And I thought, oh, this is the perfect time.
Mhm.
We went, and it was this thought of, should I be here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I should, because I still have to take care of me.
Yeah. And then what would they want? Would
Yeah.
they want us to sit around and be miserable? I doubt that. They probably would want us to, like, live our best life.
Um,
And I think about it that way because, like, my daughter didn't get to live to 2 years old. So,
Mhm.
like, I gotta live for her. Like, she's
Mhm.
not here. So I adapted that perspective rather than me dying with her. That
Mhm.
doesn't
Yeah.
make that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Mhm.
Okay, since you're a U.S. Army veteran,
Yes.
again, love the military. I worked for the military for 22 years.
Mhm.
Talk to me about some of the concerns that, or some of the grief, I would say, that the military members may endure that's different from us civilians.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the first thing that comes to mind when I think about grief is that the mission still continues.
Yeah.
So, like, no matter what happens to you, you have to get back to work.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's on the civilian side too, but a little bit more urgent on the military side, I would say. And so you don't really have time to process all the things. And I think, like, in a way, we can put it away, and we're very good at that. We're very skilled at, I can push it over here and then go do my thing over here, and no one even knows what I've been through.
Yeah.
So that's resilience, right? But
Mhm.
I offer people like a new definition after service. Like, I get it. This is what we need to do. We got to get the mission done, especially if it's critical. But it doesn't allow you to process it properly when you just put it away and never go back to it. So the objective would be that you create some time to go back to whatever you put away. Because what I've seen is people will retire after 20, 25 years,
Mhm.
and they'll be like, yeah, so either I can't sleep, or just tears are coming down, or like I don't know what's happening to me. But what's happening in retirement is you're not in that environment anymore. And
Okay.
so your, like, nervous system is like, hey, there's still all this stuff that you put away, and it's waiting on you, you know. So what we bury only gets heavier.
Mm.
And so I see that a lot. So I'm like, okay, we got to pick this apart a little bit. People are always like, why therapists always want to talk about your childhood? And I didn't even come to talk about my childhood, but really, like, we have to trace it back. We
Yeah.
have to trace the trauma back to, like, what happened to you. We have to know your story. And then once we do, then we help you. And then you're able to live in the present and not have that reaction from something that happened 20 years ago. And
Mhm.
so it's a strategic process that we have to do, but we have to recognize it first. Like, that's self-awareness is the first thing. And if you're in an environment where you're not, like, really allowed that self-awareness because you got to go do the mission,
Mhm.
then you got to learn it. It's a new mission, essentially. And so when people get out of the military, I think they start to experience that part where it's like, I'm grieving who I used to be in the service, but also this is hard.
Yeah.
And sure, there's a couple programs, but, like, the longevity of those programs,
Mhm.
not so much. So I still have to figure it out, and then, like, working with, like, military entrepreneurs, there's another layer of, like, I can do this by myself. And it's like, no, you don't. There's other people like you. Find your people. In the service, you have a battle buddy, and you do everything together. You go to the bathroom together, eat together. Like, you better know where your battle buddy's at. But then we get out and we think that life's hardest challenges we got handled by ourselves. No, that doesn't make any sense. We just have to build our tribe again.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Okay, so that reminds me of a time I was on travel, and we have well, on the Navy side,
Mhm.
um I guess it's called a base, but it's in San Diego. So we had to provide training
Mm.
for our some of the, I would say most of the members that were there under our command. And I was leading the training. And it was at one particular base. We went to, I'm trying to remember all the details. We went to lunch at this bowling alley. And I'm thinking,
Mhm.
why would we go to lunch at a bowling alley? They said, Carla, it's good food. I said, okay, we go to lunch, and it was good food. But I saw a lot of retired service members there. And it's like they had their little group.
I love that.
And me being nosy, I wanted to hear, what are they talking about? just regular stuff. And then at the end, I guess they were there just for their short time of bowling and just spending time together. They said,
Mhm.
okay, see you tomorrow. And I'm thinking, why do you want to go bowling again? But hearing you say this, that was their tribe, and it
Mhm.
meant something to them. And you could tell that they were knit together as
Yeah.
a group. That's
Yeah.
so interesting.
Yeah. It's a shared experience that is unlike anything else. Like when you go to the service, like yeah, there's different branches and all of that, but all of us go through a certain level of training.
Yeah.
And some harder than others, some different than others. But
Mhm.
if you meet another service member, you're like, yeah, at least I know you went through that. You
Yeah.
know, everybody's journey looks different, but there is a certain connection, I think, that happens. And then when you find community, it's beautiful. We're not alone. And I think that's one of the biggest complaints for like, you think about like leadership and entrepreneurship, like
Mhm.
the loneliness that comes with that
Mhm.
sometimes. And I think that that's kind of what I see in the therapy room a lot. And so I'll ask, like, for external support, who do you have? And then because they're maybe like a CEO or something like that, they don't have a lot and they don't feel comfortable talking to people like staff, of course, is a no no, or like people underneath of you and all of that. But even though you don't talk to them, doesn't mean that you can't be human with them
Mhm.
and say, I'm struggling today, you know, and they don't feel comfortable doing that kind of stuff. They feel like they have to have their leadership hat on all the time. I cannot go through anything. Nothing can be wrong with me. And that's just not sustainable. It's just not realistic.
Mhm. Mm. So powerful.
Mhm.
Let's talk about your. I believe is it the name of your company, Mission Redefined?
So my private practice is mindset quality.
Okay.
And that's where I do my mental health therapy. And then I
Mhm.
created this umbrella called Mission Redefine that
Okay.
houses everything else, where that's where the trainings are, the retreats, and just anything else mental wellness, speaking engagements, and things like that. The mission is to redefine what resilience actually means
Okay.
and just offer a new definition. So that's kind of where I came up with Mission Redefine.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Well, talk to me about it. Why is it so special to you?
Why is it so special?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think because of that narrative of like, I have to push through. And you do to a certain extent. So we won't like throw it all the way out. But how do we do it better? I think. And that's like my mission. Like if you're always pushing through, something is getting pushed down. And unresolved trauma, like it doesn't show up with the name tag, you know. It's like control issues or short tempers or
Mm-hmm.
meetings that could have been an email, you know, but somehow lasted an hour, things like that. Like so when leaders start to heal, they stop leading from that urgency and they start leading from clarity, and that's the difference. Everybody feels that shift. And when you're healing, it doesn't make you emotional, it just makes you like less reactive. So for the leaders that blow up or the leaders that all of a sudden get emotional or later on have to come and apologize because of whatever they said or did, like what if, you know, you had worked on yourself or you had taken a breath, you paused on purpose before you had that conversation, it's
Mm-hmm.
less reactive. You get some sort of a clarity and then you proceed, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and so it's a skill.
Mm-hmm.
And science explains what's happening. Like when you're hurt, the story explains why it hurt, and your soul explains why you still care about it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you need a pause. And if you skip that, you're going to intellectualize your pain, you're going to overshare, or you're going to ignore it completely, and none of those work.
Wow.
So, you know, I don't like the leadership models that forget that we have bodies because
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't work that way. It's not something that we can ignore. Like it's just
Mm-hmm.
part of it.
Mm. Yeah, I have a therapist, and I meet with her every other month.
Mhm.
And And I think I shared this on one of the other live shows. One time I was sick and I thought I was just sick from like a cold or something.
Mhm.
And she said that, oh, it sounds like Carla did, what word did she use? She said, sounds like you're a little depressed. I said, huh? I'm depressed? Because I'm thinking, I'm one of the silliest people ever. And she
Yeah.
said, sounds like you're a little, just a little depressed. And this is the part she said I really never put too much thought into. She said, what goes on your mind is going to show out in your body.
Mhm.
I'm thinking, oh, I could just push this stuff away, or, it's not a big deal. But when she said
Sure.
that, I said, okay, that's what's going on with my body. It's not so much, oh, I've got a cold or a flu or something,
Yep.
but it's actually showing up and
Yeah.
it's coming across in a negative way because whatever's up here is negative.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's why I
Mm.
think it has to be strategic and it has to be part of the process, because
Mhm.
if it's not, then we end up neglecting it.
Yeah.
And we cannot run on fumes. Like, our leadership cannot run on fumes. That
Right. Right.
will make us terrible
Right.
leaders, and so when we start to change that definition of like redefining what resilience actually means, you
Mhm.
get to create your individual version of that. What
Mhm.
does redefining resilience mean to you at this moment of your life? Because it will always be changing, and we should always level up. We should always
Mhm.
level up. So
Mhm.
as I'm thinking about this stage of my life, I have to go back and reevaluate what's worked. So what do I have to tolerate, right? Like, I have to tolerate like paying bills, I have to tolerate running my business, things like that are essential. I have to do that. What am I choosing to tolerate? Then I start to like look at what choices I'm making. Like, oh, I took that event and I didn't get paid for it, and now I feel resentful. So I'm choosing to tolerate that because I didn't
Mhm.
have to do that. That was my choice. And then what am I no longer willing to tolerate? Because now we're making changes here, we're
Yeah.
growing and
Yeah.
developing. And so for me, that's what redefining resilience is all about. I'm asking myself these grounding questions, and I'm not in that learned helplessness, like, I don't
Mhm.
have a choice to do all the things. No, that's not true. That's not
Mhm.
true. So, what do I have to tolerate? What am I choosing to tolerate? And then what am I no longer willing to now that I know better? And that's how I think we should think about, like, the strategic movement here of, like, redefining what resilience means to you. Do a self-check. What needs to change? What's not in
Mhm.
alignment anymore?
Mm.
And if we are flexible with that, then I think that's when we see the most growth, and it's beautiful.
Wow, that's wonderful. Wonderful. Every leader needs to be able to spend time and listen to this. Let's talk about, well, two things. I saw your little dog. Your little
Yeah,
dog's having a good time.
he he found the throw pillow and was like, "Imma lay here." So,
Yeah, I'm going to be a part. I'm special as well. And then you have your book. Talk to us a little bit about your book.
so my book, behind me is United We Serve, United We Heal, and that is a guide to healing from racial trauma.
Mm.
So during my time in the service, not all of my time in the service, but a particular unit that I went to, I experienced some of the worst like racism that I ever experienced in my life.
Wow.
And it was terrible. It was so terrible. All of the military is not like that. I
Right.
never experienced it until I got to
Yeah.
this particular unit. Um, and it created this fear in me that like no one had my back. These people are supposed to have my back. So there's like betrayal and there's like moral injury. This is not right. And I realized what it did to me over the years. And then also like in between that time losing my daughter and not even getting like a card or even like not looking for sympathy or anything like that, but even like acknowledgement of what I'm struggling with, just the where you at, you supposed to be here type of thing. So I wrote about just a little bit about my story, but then I talked about like how to not let it keep you stuck, because what happened to me was I didn't want to be promoted because I didn't want to be like them,
Yeah.
and it just created this stuckness in me. Let me do my time and get out. When really I could have excelled and been great and rose above it, but I didn't have the tools that I needed. So my mission with this book was to make sure that other people don't go through that by themselves, and that we name it for what it is. A lot of people don't want to talk about racism like it's a bad word or something, but
Mm-hmm.
no, it exists and it's
Yes.
real.
Yes.
And another thing about like the dismissal, sometimes when you come into military spaces, because of privilege, the idea is when I put this uniform on, everyone's the same. That's not true. And there are some marginalized populations that know that that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And so I created this book as a way of connection, as a way of like, hey, this is this. Let's talk about it in a way that is neutral. We're not shaming or blaming. We're literally talking about history
Yeah.
and connecting it to today and why we still have to have these conversations. And here's a way for you not to be stuck in that. Here's a way to know that you can also move forward. So that's my passion behind that book.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank
And then
you.
also as an international speaker, okay, this is maybe a silly question. Are you just speaking, pardon me, to the military, or is it leadership wide? Where do you
Yeah.
actually go and speak?
So mostly I would say high performing folks. So
Okay,
that could
gotcha.
be military, it could be leadership, it could be um any companies or any type of like, when I get booked for trainings, usually it's like trauma informed leadership and things like
Hmm.
that. So promoting mental wellness for these places, and then I kind of tailor it to what they need. But most of the time, it has a mental wellness component, whether it's like
Hmm.
leadership, entrepreneurship, um, anything in that realm, just helping people live well, and that could mean a lot of different things.
Okay. Well, Dr. Jordan, I don't think I asked that one question. That's like my producer Connie and I. It's kind of like our inside joke. We always have these questions, and I'll ask one or two, but today
Yeah.
I didn't ask any at all. It's been wonderful to have you. And thank you for talking about grief. Thank you for sharing about your little smiley, precious girl.
Thank
And thank you for
you.
just talking to us on a practical level about grief resilience, because it doesn't need to be over our head. It's something that all of us could just sit and say, you know what? I'm the person who needs the help. And where can I get this help from? Because
Yeah.
we're, like you said earlier, we're humans.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to go through this, regardless of your position, regardless of where you work, regardless if you own your own business. We are humans.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you for having me as well.
All right.
Like I said, I deal with like a lot of leadership, and we're doing something meaningful, but
Yeah.
also we get tired.
Yeah.
But tired doesn't mean that we're failing.
Hmm.
So, we are human, and leadership gets better when we stop pretending otherwise. And
Hmm.
so that's why these conversations are so important.
Mm. Well, it's a pleasure having you today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, thank you all for attending Lead Like You Mean It, people. This is our last one for the year. I tell you, I can't believe it. We started in July. And so it's been then until today. Today is December 17th. Next week is Christmas. So have a Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year. And Lead Like You Mean It, people. We'll see you in January. All right, folks. Have a good one.